Welcome, foolish mortals, to the penultimate episode of our Halloween spooky month here on A Dark Cup of History. So far we have delved into the story of Gilles de Rais, possibly history's first serial killer, tried not to lose our heads over headless ghosts. Last week we learned exactly how to kill a Wendigo, which turns out to be pretty damn near impossible. And next week we will be taking you along on a live episode as we go on a shuck hunt. More on that later.
This week, we're going to be taking a look at some of yours and our favourite horror movies and telling their true stories.
Death, we'll be discovering that if a Halloween decoration looks too realistic, it may not actually be a decoration. Decoration? Sorry.
It's going to go well.
Great start.
So grab a drink of something strong, a pillow to hide behind, lock your doors, and let's get dark. So, how do you make a horror tale scarier? Just say it is based on a true story. That's a technique book publishers and movie producers have been using for decades. Whether or not the supposedly true story adds up, as obviously some artistic license is allowed, as well as ensuring that the movie is a movie and not, well, just a documentary.
Some movies are inspired by what might be called real hoaxes, so made-up stories that people had believed. Others draw inspiration from unexplained behaviour or folklore. Read about how the story of a troubled teen inspired a movie about demon possession, how a series of hoaxes launched a major movie franchise, and how centuries-old folklore about disease gave way to a classic Hollywood villain.
Yeah, so that's the sort of things they'll use in their taglines to make their movies.
Yeah.
You want to go and see them, basically. So it's like clickbait, but for movies.
Pretty much. Watch bait? I bait? I don't know.
Read bait?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Vision bait!
But we love a horror movie here on A Nice Cup of History. It is my favourite genre after musicals. Two very different genres there, I do understand. But that's why I like Sweeney Todd so much. A mixture of the two. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of gore for, no reason. I don't want to see someone get their head cut off just because it will spray blood everywhere. I like a good story behind my movies. The Saw franchise is my number one, with the first being the best in my opinion. And I also love Sinister. The storyline was the best that I'd seen in a movie for a while. The classics are also unbeatable at the moment. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, so good. Freddy Krueger was the first nightmare that I ever had. I remember I woke up, I got out of bed, and I fell through the floor, and he killed me. So then when I actually woke up, I was like, if I get out of bed, am I going to die? I wasn't sure. It was hardcore, and the original Pennywise in It gave me a complete phobia of clowns too. So there are some downsides to horror movies, but I just love that feeling of, being scared.
See, I love the feeling of being scared, but I prefer supernatural and psychological horrors to gore.
Yeah.
Because, I watch the likes of Game of Thrones. If I want my gore, I'll go and watch fantasy. But I've never really been big into horror films in the way that you are, mainly because we didn't really watch them too much growing up. We watched Resident Evil when it first came out when I was young. And that gave me a phobia of zombies, which I'm glad to say I am now 90% over, thanks to The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But it was horrible, and same as you, I had a nightmare. In that I was in underground in Raccoon City, and I was coming out, and the house on top was actually my parents' house, and I was fleeing from the zombies, and I managed to escape into my bedroom, and I slammed my bedroom door and locked myself in, and I got myself on the bed where I was safe. But then the walls started to writhe, and they were coming through the walls. And I can talk about it now, but that is what made me scared to the point where if I saw a zombie, I would shake, I would sweat, I would vomit. It was not cool.
It shows the power of the movies, though, because we're talking about, we had our first, mine, Freddy, yours, zombies.
Yeah.
At least 15 years ago.
This was the 90s. I was young.
Yeah. And it's still, we can still remember how they made us feel.
Oh yeah. But I'm a big fan of the vampire genre, so yeah. I love vampire films. Love mummy films as well, especially big shout out to The Mummy and The Mummy Returns with Brendan Fraser.
Oh, they are so good.
I'm pretty sure those films are why I'm a bisexual disaster. They were amazing, and I love some of my favourites are The Omen, Pet Sematary, The Exorcist, your proper old school horrors.
Yeah.
Much to my dismay and depression, I have not seen I've seen Dracula, but I've not seen the original the original Dracula, and I've not seen like the Boris Karloff mummies. So Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, I haven't seen those, but I did quite enjoy Dracula Untold with Luke Evans.
Nice.
Some people didn't like it too much, but I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, me and my ex-boyfriend, when I was a teenager, every Friday night we'd go down to Blockbuster. His dad would drive us to Blockbuster, and we made our way through the horror movie section.
Yeah.
That's where I first watched Seven, Hide and Seek, Sixth Sense. I forgot about the people. What's that one with the little bear? The Sixth Sense. The classic ones.
Yeah. And Final Destination is the reason why neither of us will ever drive behind a wood-carrying lorry.
It's not just us.
Lorry. No.
You know.
There's an entire generation.
People put on Facebook, and then you've got that meme of the lorry with the metal poles, that like scaffolding lorries, and it's just a picture of the back of them going, a whole generation cannot drive behind one of these. Yeah. And everyone knows what they're talking about.
That's the thing, there's two kinds of people. There's the ones that want to get past it just because it's driving slow, and there's ones that get past it because I don't want to die.
Yep.
Yep.
But those ones, I'd say, more are kind of based on fiction.
What was the horror film, though? Just out of curiosity, what was the horror film that actually, other than like Freddy Krueger, what was the horror film that actually scared you when you were watching it at the time?
Dead Silence.
Dead Silence was freaky. For me, it was The Woman in Black.
Oh, I'd seen that on the stage, and the stage version is worse than the movie. The movie's really good, but when it comes to jump scares and stuff, the movie that isn't as bad as the stage show.
No, the book's good. The book is good, but it builds tension in a different kind of way, and it's not that scary. It's more tense.
Yeah.
But But I get why you would be scared of it. By the way, I've not seen the original Tim Curry ones. I've seen the Bill Skarsgård ones. And, he's ace in it. He's wonderfully creepy, and it's good. But I get why you would be scared.
I said Dead Silence. You started talking about it.
Yeah, I know. I was just harking
right. You just started talking about a movie. You didn't explain which one you mean.
Dead Silence was good.
Dead Silence is.
That's the one with the tooth fairy, isn't it?
No, Dead Silence is the one with the puppets.
Oh yes, the puppets. Oh god, yeah. Oh yeah, and the weird rhyme that they keep singing, the nursery rhyme about her.
Yeah. Freddy Krueger has a nursery rhyme as well. When you hear those kids go, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
I have never seen the Freddy Krueger films.
Oh my god, we need to change that.
I want to, but I've never seen them.
The second one, this isn't a spoiler because obviously everyone knows that Freddy comes and kills you in your dreams.
Yeah.
But the second one has a bit that I can't watch, and it's where this girl's in hospital and he takes out all of her veins and walks her like a puppet with her veins, and you just see them literally come out and they're just attached to her hand. And it literally makes my whole body hurt.
Is it wrong that my first thought was, that's kind of cool?
See, you need to watch them. They're really cool.
Is it the first Freddy Krueger, the original one, has Alice Cooper in it?
Yeah, and Johnny Depp.
See, I thought, because I can't remember if it was my dad or my brother was watching it one time, and I was doing something in the kitchen, so I'm walking back out.
Didn't think the human body doesn't contain as much blood as what comes out of Johnny Depp.
Oh, there's never as much blood in the human body as there is in a horror film.
No,
never.
Johnny Depp's one, he's laying on bed. On the bed.
He's laying on bed. Laying on bed.
And Freddy's arms come up out of the mattress, drag him under, and just blood comes out. It's kind of spoofed in Scary Movie 1, but instead of blood they use a different male.
A different internal serum.
Internal serum sounds so gross.
I tried to make it better. I didn't know.
Internal serum. Right, should we continue with that? Should we have a look into some true stories behind some of the most beloved horror movies?
And to be fair, you started with my favourites.
Yeah, well, when I was trying to research into which movies to choose, it was hard because everything was like 65 horror movies that are based on true stories, 25 horror movies, and so it's like having to find the ones that had the most interesting backstories.
Yeah.
And I tried to pick some that were supernatural, some that are gory, some we've seen and some we haven't seen. So we're going to start off in 1922.
Okay.
With Nosferatu.
Now this one I haven't seen, but I've heard about it, and you know everyone's seen that classic rising up out of the coffin and the creeping along with the sunlight thing.
And Igor.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think they're remaking it,
I think they are too.
and I think they're using Bill Skarsgård.
Why is he the horror movie dude at the minute?
He's so deliciously creepy.
Yeah.
But it's like the entire Skarsgård family is just insanely talented.
Yeah.
And insanely good looking. I mean, it's so unfair.
Almost like the Hemsworths.
Right? Oh god, if they made a film together. Oh. But anyway, and it's just Bill Skarsgård is just beautifully creepy. You see him in Hemlock Grove, and oh yeah, so he'd nail it. But anyway, the 1922 version.
Yeah. It's a German film.
Mm-hmm.
Called, the actual full title is Nosferatu, A Sympathy of Horror. Symphony of Horror. It's basically an unauthorised knockoff of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. We did do a collab episode last Halloween with the Manic podcast on Dracula, so check them out to hear both ours and theirs.
Manic, 2 N's.
Very important. The filmmakers didn't actually get permission from late Stoker's estate to adapt the book, so they made certain changes. So instead of Count Dracula, the main villain is Count Orlok.
Copyright drama aside, stories of undead beings feeding off the living have been around longer than Bram Stoker's novel. The modern idea of vampires likely evolved from old European folk beliefs. Before people understood how diseases spread, vampirism may have been a way to explain deaths from the plague, tuberculosis, and other unseen maladies that ravaged communities. Different regions had different ways of stopping vampires. In Romania, one remedy was to cut out the heart of a suspected vampire, i.e. a cadaver, and burn it to ashes.
Some have speculated that Stoker's Dracula was based on Vlad the Impaler, aka Vlad III Dracula, a 15th century ruler of
Wallachia.
I mean, we did that in the whole episode in Romania.
I could just hear Tobias's voice in my head in the background just going, Wallachia!
Wallachia!
in the background.
In Stoker's research notes for Dracula, he recorded that Dracula means devil in the Wakalian language. However, scholars suspect that they appropriated the name without knowing very much about Vlad. In any case, there was already a lot of vampire fiction by then. Lord Byron's epic poem,
I think it's the Gayor,
in 1813, The Penny Dreadful, Verney the Vampire, in 1847, and the lesbian vampire novel Carmilla in 1972, to name just a few.
What a description! The lesbian vampire novel.
Have you not seen the movie Lesbian Vampire Killers? With James Corden.
I've not seen the movie. I know of it. But
it's ridiculous, but in almost like the best way.
But no, I mean it's true. The book Carmilla is about a lesbian vampire, but it's just the way it's described. A lesbian vampire novel from the 1800s. Whew, saucy.
That probably showed an ankle or 3.
Whew. Heaving bosoms aplenty. Sorry, honestly, but yeah. So Nosferatu. There is a lot of like urban legend around it, in that the guy that played Count Orlok, whose name escapes me, please forgive me, he was a little bit weird, was possibly very, very method with it, like what we would identify as method, like Daniel Day-Lewis level method. People actually believed maybe he was Nosferatu.
Okay.
But it could have maybe. Just maybe he actually was.
Maybe.
But there is a film about the making of Nosferatu that tells you about it, and I can't remember the title of it, but if I find it, I'll put it up on social media. For Facebook at Cup of Histity, Twitter at Cup of Histity, and Instagram Cup of Histity. So I'll put it up on there if I can find a link to it, if I just remember. But yeah, just spitballing off the top of my head, it's about how he was and how he acted and how people began, this like mythos began to swirl around him.
You're quite good with all these things on the top of your head though, so you should know.
Carrie's random fact.
Carrie's random fact.
So, next film. Bring it forward in time.
So that was Nosferatu, so now we'll jump into 1973 with, apparently this movie had people leaving the cinema, wanting to, like, physically being sick, nightmares, wanting it banned. We are talking about The Exorcist, the OG Exorcist in 73.
In mid-1949, a number of newspapers reported an alleged possession and eventual exorcism of a boy known as Robbie, or Roland Doe. Robbie grew up in a German Lutheran family, and after expressing an interest in Ouija boards, his spiritualist Aunt Harriet introduced him to one. Stupid Aunt Harriet.
Mm-hmm. It was after the death of his aunt that the family began experiencing seemingly paranormal activity in the house. This ranged from vibrations, strange noises, flying objects, and levitation. Blatty described this as the first stage of classical possession or infestation, and used this in his novel before the full possession of Regan. The violent, guttural voice and revulsion of sacred items displayed by Regan, Regan is the name of the girl in The Exorcist who is possessed, is also inspired by descriptions of Robbie's possession.
It's technically my brother's, and I have yet to give it back to him, but I'm going to read it before I give it back to him. Sorry, Joe, if you're listening, which you probably aren't, let's be honest. I've got a copy of The Exorcist and The Exorcist 2, the William Blatty books, and I wanted to read them, but when I moved house, I thought I'd lost it, and then I was just walking around one day and tidying up my house, and it literally just fell out of the bookcase. It was there. It was already in my bookcase. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm reading this.
Wow.
Elements of the Loudon possessions of 1634 are also credited with inspiring Blatty's novel. In this case, a group of nuns claimed possession after having illicit dreams about an attractive priest named Urban Grandier. During the exorcisms, they convulsed, blasphemed, and made sexual motions towards the priests, similar to the infamous crucifix scene in The Exorcist. In a desperate attempt to clear his name, Grandier tried to exorcise the nuns himself, testing them by speaking a Greek, a sign of possession being understanding or speaking languages previously unknown to the subject. However, they had been coached and responded by saying that they made a pact not to speak Greek. Despite Grandier's best efforts, he was imprisoned and tortured. Some of the nuns in question even came to his defence towards the end of the trial, but this was dismissed as the devil's work and he was burned at the stake. So who had a grudge on Grandier?
I have no idea. Although the film version of The Exorcist evoked a negative reaction from religious groups, with many protesting outside of cinemas, Blatty has said that the true aim of the novel was to scare a generation into going back to church. The novel he calls an
apostolic.
That's a really nice word. I can't say it, but I enjoy that word.
Yeah, it's nice.
It sold 13 million copies in the US alone, and a great success that he attributes to divine intervention.
Some of these sound bites used for the movie were real. The hospital ward scene was filmed in a real mental hospital, and the sounds used were real patients. So it's a cursed film anyway.
Wow.
Let's be honest. It's a cursed film.
So I kind of thought The Exorcist would have some sort of true story thing behind, because a lot of possession movies take their thing, like, it's not in this list, but there's The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I saw that on a plane to New York. Me and my friend Tasha pressed play at the same time.
Nice.
And I remember it went, Emily! That's the very first thing you hear is the name Emily screamed. And I screamed on the plane.
Nice.
I should get used to Emily being in horror movies though, because the name always comes up.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a nice innocent name, but if you've ever met our Emily...
Hey, rude! But yeah, so The Exorcist, I kind of expected it to be there. But I didn't know about the nun side of it.
I've heard the nun story before, but I didn't realise that was linked into The Exorcist. Like, that was the link for it. There's about 4 Exorcist films, isn't there now? Because there's a prequel and like 2 sequels or something. But
I've only ever seen the OG one though.
Well, the house that inspired it, where the events that inspired it happened, that young lad. Whilst I do find them entertaining, and they have found some interesting stuff. I do take their investigations with a pinch of salt. They're kind of like the American Most Haunted, Ghost Adventures.
Oh yeah.
And they do find some pretty cool stuff, to be fair, sometimes. But they actually did an investigation of that house, and some of the stuff they found was like, what? There's something still there.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and there's people living in it. I'm just like, why?
Absolutely not.
But yeah, there's some stuff they still have. But yeah. Cool. We won't go into our feelings on Ouija boards, will we?
No.
So up next, the Amityville Horror.
Yes, original in 1975, and the remake, which I've watched with you very recently, in 2005, with Ryan Reynolds in.
I do want to watch the original just to compare it to the remake.
But it's a very good remake, though. Ryan Reynolds is very, very good.
It's good to see him in something slightly serious.
Yeah. So, the story behind Amityville Horror. On the 13th of November 1974, 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family of 6 in their sleep. 1 year later, the Lutz family purchased a house in Amityville, New York, where the horror took place.
Parents George and Kathy Lutz then claimed that they experienced shocking paranormal phenomena in the house: green slime oozing from the walls, a creature with red eyes, and multiple family members levitating in their beds.
The claims appeared in Jay Anson's 1977 book, The Amityville Horror, which inspired the 1979 movie of the same title, which then inspired many more movies from that.
Some of them good, some of them very much not.
Mm-hmm.
Butch DeFeo's lawyer later admitted that he, George and Kathy had created this horror story over many bottles of wine. Even so, the tale raised the profile of Ed and Lorraine Warren, a couple who got involved with the Amityville story and helped promote it.
They set themselves up as psychics and clairvoyants who investigate ghosts and hauntings, says Benjamin Radford, who was the deputy editor of Skeptical Inquirer magazine. They would hear what stories, either in the news or just sort of through the grapevine, and they would sort of introduce themselves into the story.
The debate about the accuracy of the Amityville Horror continues. The various owners of the house since the Lutz family left in 1976 have publicly reported no problems whilst living there. James Cromarty, who bought the house in 1977 and lived there with his wife Barbara for 10 years, commented, "Nothing weird ever happened except for people coming by because of the book and the movie."
So the 100% true facts is Robert DeFeo did kill his 6 family members: his mum, dad, his brothers, and his 2 younger sisters. He shot them.
Yeah.
One of the girls was found in her closet, shot in the head. Like, he did that, but he blamed it on voices he heard in the house. So that bit is true. So then in the movie, it then says that the next people who bought the house, the father, Ryan Reynolds' character, I don't know who played it in the original, sorry.
I can see his face, but I can't remember his name.
But he then starts hearing voices and then tries to kill his family, and they manage to escape on a boat. Yeah. And he then starts feeling fine when he gets away from the house.
Yeah. I mean, we can't dispute the fact whether or not DeFeo Jr. did actually hear voices. It's entirely possible. It might not have been a haunting.
I think he may
have
said he had some form of schizophrenia.
It's entirely possible. Some sort of schizoaffective disorder could cause that, or any kind of psychosis could cause that. But that kind of thing will also leave a scar on the house. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it causes green slime to ooze down the walls, I don't know. Yeah. That's more of a Ghostbusters than anything else.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters!
Right, so, next movie. The Zodiac,
this movie
from 2007. I love this movie. I watch it.
It's insanely good.
But it's one of those things that really pisses me off. As you've probably heard on this podcast, if you've listened, as much as I love being historian and everything is open to interpretation and to things we don't know, I hate history mysteries. I hate not knowing. Like, I hate not knowing what happened to the princess in the tower. I hate not knowing who Jack the Ripper is. It really bugs me. So I hate that we don't know who the Zodiac is. I mean, it really bugs me.
It's entirely possible there has been a breakthrough on it, but whether or not we can conclusively prove it, we don't know.
I don't know. But this movie is banging. It brings, for the first time, it brings RDJ and Mark Ruffalo together before Avengers. This came out a year before Iron Man.
And Jake Gyllenhaal as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's not one of the OG Avengers. He's Mysterio. We don't talk about him. He's mean.
He's not good.
But it brings... It's just such a good movie.
It's insanely well acted, well directed. The music is on point. It's for such a dark subject matter. It is very well and very sensitively done.
Yeah, because it doesn't really focus on the killer. It focuses on Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who becomes obsessed with it and then writes a book. But the Zodiac Killer is the pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who operated in Northern California in the late 1960s. The case has been described as the most famous unsolved murder case in American history, becoming a fixture of popular culture and inspiring amateur detectives to attempt to solve it.
The Zodiac murdered 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969, operating in rural, urban and suburban settings. He targeted young couples and a lone male cab driver, and his known attacks took place in Benicia, Vallejo, unincorporated Napa County, and the city of San Francisco proper. Two of his attempted victims survived. The Zodiac himself claimed to have murdered 37 victims, and he has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state.
The Zodiac originated the name himself in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regional newspapers, threatening killing sprees and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers in which the killer claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the 4 ciphers he produced, 2 remain unsolved. One was cracked only in 2020. While many theories regarding the identity of the killer has been suggested, the only subject authorities ever publicly named was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and a convicted sex offender who died in 1992.
See, that I find that interesting because serial killers usually they have a type, and I don't know. I haven't researched much into the Zodiac's victims to see what the correlation is, but they usually have a type, don't they? There's a victim type, or there is a reason for the killing. So they might not look similar, but they might have like similar backgrounds, etc. Like Jack the Ripper with your sex workers.
Yeah,
that's
I'm pretty sure the Zodiac was couples,
but
from what I remember. I think, but I could completely be wrong. I could be thinking of a different movie. I watched a lot of horror movies. It's October.
if he's then collecting slaves in brackets, quotation marks, sorry, for the afterlife, then they would need a certain physique. They would need a certain work ethic, for example. So how did he choose these victims? How did what links them? What kind of physicality or anything links them? But also that would be as legitimate and illegitimate reason as you could possibly get for serial killers, like better than the voices told me to do it.
Yeah.
DeFeo. But it's I'm collecting them. There's a purpose behind it. They're a reason killer. So although he did actually cease written communication in around 1974, the unusual nature of the case led to an international interest that has sustained through the years. The San Francisco Police Department marked the case inactive in April 2004, but reopened it at some point prior to March 2007. The case also remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as in Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac murders since 1969.
The film itself follows Robert Graysmith, who wrote a book called The Zodiac, played by a typically puppish Jake Gyllenhaal. Graysmith was a San Francisco Chronicle cartoonist, that's a mouthful, whose fascination with the murders engaged a kind of partnership with crime editor Paul Avery, who was played by Robert Downey Jr., and it mirrored in the investigations of police detectives Mark Ruffalo and Anthony Edwards. So they played the police detectives, and that was they were based on real people.
Yeah. Portraying the Zodiac's attack on a young couple in a car in a deserted makeout spot, the opening scene, one of several bravura suspense sequences, can't help but recall slasher convention. The investigation that follows seems like a pacey procedural, but the clues don't quite fit together. The solution doesn't come, and as procedure sprawls into obsession, the tone shifts from genre picture to something more like curious observation. Sometimes sympathetic, sometimes almost mocking of the refusal to let go. Perhaps some puzzles should be set aside.
Yeah.
They they published the cipher in the newspaper to see if anyone could crack it, and there was a couple that did it, didn't they? And they liked puzzles, so they managed to crack the cipher. But yeah,
it's a very good movie. There was something to do with his birthday was in December as well, because he used to always ring one of the detectives at Christmas for a chat and be like, "I'm lonely." Yeah. So
my first reaction to that should not have been, "That's sad." Empathy with a serial killer, Carrie. Let's not go there. Let's not go down that particular rabbit hole.
We've already been said that we can empathise with the serial killers, but as in there's an explanation but not an excuse.
Yeah.
Like we said, most serial killers have a shitty upbringing.
Yeah.
Their parents are crappy to them. They might get beaten, abused, sexually, emotionally, physically, whatever.
It's that thing that it could happen to any of us.
Yeah.
And having vaguely troubled childhoods, not quite to that extent, but there could have been at any point that tipping point, that marker for either of us. So it's that thing of you could potentially become that beast at any point.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it, just some people actually did.
So movie number, I've lost count.
We've done Zodiac, Nosferatu, Exorcist, Amityville Horror. This is number...
Okay, 5, halfway through, because we've done 10. 1982's Poltergeist. Researching this was a big fat nope.
What, for you?
Yeah, because then I was talking to my friend Feroza, who listens in at work.
Hi, Feroza.
And she then told us stories of things that happened in her parents' house up in Scotland. And they still live there, and I don't know why.
Why?
But Poltergeist is like a big fat nope. But why, Carrie?
they're here. I just had to do that just to see
It's
you cringe.
literally like the Freddie song, isn't it? Christ.
We all know that line. It's one of the spookiest and most famous in all of horrors, and it's from the film Poltergeist, and that it comes from Carol Ann Freeling, played by Heather O'Rourke, young and blonde and cherubic, which makes it all the more terrifying. They're referring to are ghosts who've come into her suburban house through a portal, and with them has come something known as the Beast, which is a dark presence that will eventually snatch Carol Ann through her bedroom closet and take her into another dimension.
But before all of that happens, the Freeling home, Freeling being the family name, experiences paranormal activity that one can liken to the poltergeist of the film's title. Poltergeists are known as noisy spirits, prone to physical disturbances, raps on the wall, bent spoons, moving furniture, all that malarkey. There have been thousands of real-life reported cases of poltergeist activity around the world, and one such case loosely inspired the film Poltergeist.
It's a German word, isn't it? It's roughly translated, if I remember rightly, it means like troubled spirit or dark spirit or bothersome spirit, something like that.
I think Geist is ghost.
Yeah.
In German, so yeah.
Yeah. On the evening of February the 3rd, 1958, a man named James Herman from Seaford, Long Island, New York, received a telephone call at work from his wife, Lucille. She informed him that she and their teenage children, Jimmy and Lucy, had heard a series of popping sounds coming from various spots around the house. When they investigated, they found uncapped bottles of several substances completely upended in many different rooms, including a vial of holy water, which spilled all over a bedroom dresser.
Herman, sceptical of the whole thing, advised his family to stay calm and to keep the occurrences to themselves. He believed some teenage pranksters got inside and tried to spook the family. It was important to him to keep things under control. But 5 days later, the same thing happened again, and the next day it happened again. This time, Mr. Herman watched in horror as bottles moved about in his bathroom as if dragged by some unseen hand. This time, he called the police.
I mean, what exactly are the police going to do?
I don't know, that is your normal gut reaction, isn't it?
To be
Call
fair,
the authorities.
Yeah, I suppose. I guess so. When the police arrived, more bottles began popping through the home. They performed a series of tests to rule out radio transmissions or electrical disturbances, which, is nicely logical.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottles were not warm or otherwise charged. Whatever was happening to them could not be explained with logic. On February 17th, a priest came to the home to bless it.
Obviously, Poltergeist is more sensationalised than the story of the Hermans. There are physical apparitions, Native American burial grounds, body-chomping portals, and skeletons popping out of the swimming pool. The film is also said to be cursed. Stars Dominique Dunne and Heather O'Rourke both passed away very young, and other mysterious activities was reported on set. We can't speak to the truth of the curse, but it's definitely a story that follows Poltergeist more than that of the Hermans, the real people who loosely inspired the film.
There's a lot of urban legends about cursed films, though, aren't there? I mean, The Omen was meant to be cursed, and a number of people died whilst making it. So, yeah, I find that interesting. It's like it's this whole thing of if you put some belief or bring something to life, are you actually literally bringing it to life?
Fact.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never seen Poltergeist.
No.
They've remade it, haven't they, as well? Did they remake it, or
Possibly.
Because I think I remember seeing it and they used like a clown as part of it and you were like, nope, absolutely not.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Carrie.
Sorry.
Let's go on to the next film now, shall we?
Yeah.
Silent Hill, 2006. This is the only one that isn't really gory or supernatural. It's
icky.
It's strange.
Yeah.
While the environment of Silent Hill seems as though it could only exist in nightmares, it is a very real place with a devastating history. The town of Silent Hill, West Virginia, is actually Centralia, Pennsylvania. In May 1962, the city ordered the local landfill to be burned in an attempt to clean up the waste. The fire spread through unsealed tunnels and openings that led to an abandoned coal mine, thus igniting fires that still burn to this day.
Local firefighters could not stop the burning, and the government quickly decided that the town needed to evacuate for their safety. Just as in the film, the air in Centralia is dangerous, and it is recommended people do not expose themselves to the environment for longer periods. Whilst most people left, a few stayed, hoping that the fire would stop. There's always one. One of the only remaining buildings is a church that is still in use. Silent Hill is very similar in this regard, as only a few citizens remain in the West Virginia town and continue to attend church services.
In 2002, the United States Postal Service suspended the town's zip code, and all roads leading into Centralia have since been barricaded. Silent Hill follows this history almost to the exact detail, except, in real life, Centralia is not plagued by a cult, witches, or multi-dimensional monsters. As of right now, there are only 2 films in the franchise, but Christopher Gans has announced a 3rd film is possibly in the works. The impressive attention to detail speaks to the severity of this historical incident. Silent Hill's use of the town as inspiration further emphasises the true horrors that happen in real life.
Is it Silent Hill, the one where the sequel where that's got Kit Harington in?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I didn't honestly know what it was about. But
Well,
yeah,
maybe.
it's just it's
Yeah. But that's, like we said at the beginning, they take the stories and then they have to change it so it's not a documentary. So they've basically, by the sounds of it, kept 100% historical detail, but then added, like, oh, what can we add for movies? Let's add a witch and a cult and some dimensions.
It's also really unfair to witches. I mean, cults have done some weird shit, but witches...
I mean, witches have had a bad rep in most things, Carrie. You know, the whole burnings and stuff.
Yeah, we won't even talk about the movie Black Death.
Talking of the word black, Carrie, let's go to another movie from 2006.
I saw the picture of this when you were researching it on your screen, and I knew instantly what it was.
Yeah.
The Black Dahlia in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
On the morning of the 15th of January, 1947, not 1497, Carrie, 1947, for a walk in Los Angeles neighbourhood, stumbled. Honestly,
Put your teeth back in.
I know. I apologise. A mother taking her child for a walk in a Los Angeles neighbourhood stumbled upon a gruesome sight: the body of a young naked woman sliced clean in half at the waist. The body was just a few feet from the sidewalk and posed in such a way that the mother reportedly thought it was a mannequin at first glance. Despite
the extensive mutilation and cuts on the body, there wasn't a drop of blood at the scene, indicating that the young woman had been killed elsewhere.
The young woman turned out to be 22-year-old Hollywood hopeful named Elizabeth Short, later dubbed the Black Dahlia by the press for her rumoured penchant for sheer black clothes and for the Blue Dahlia movie out at that time.
The fascination with the 1947 death of Elizabeth Short hasn't died down, even 70 years later. The story has inspired numerous books and films, including the 1987 novel The Black Dahlia and the 2006 film with the same name starring Scarlett Johansson and Josh Hartnett.
Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins has taken on the tale in her new TNT show I Am the Night, starring Chris Pine and India Isley. Though the series is fictionalised, it revolves around the family of the man whom enthusiasts have held as perhaps the most probable suspect for the Black Dahlia murder.
Yeah, it's also one of the subs.
I can't remember.
Oh, it's Murder House!
Oh, yeah.
Is they saying that it was at the house that she was killed?
Yes. Yeah, because she appears in it, and as soon as they said the name Elizabeth Short, I was like, oh.
Yeah, but the murderer's never been caught.
No.
Another history mystery that I don't like.
No. But the way the murder was done, it was very... To have been murdered elsewhere, completely exsanguinated, and then posed in such a way, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a lone murder, if there were others.
Oh yeah, there's no way that would be the only one with that much precision.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be the only time you've done it. Yeah. And wasn't she dubbed like, that's one of the deaths that they thought Jack the Ripper had come over to America, and then when you realise actually it was like 50 years later, he'd be dead by then.
Best of will, no.
But still. Right, the next movie is one that as soon as I said, Carrie, let's do movies, and you came over and you were like, you know the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yep.
Okay, so you've got the OG from 1974 and another one from 2003, which isn't the most recent one, which is very recent. They're currently making them at the moment.
Yeah, this is going to be my catchphrase throughout this episode, I think. Haven't seen it. I'm trying.
At least it's almost like it's giving you a tick list of ones to go home and watch.
Yeah, there are some I will watch during the day with the windows open and the lights on.
Like when you and I are fancying a horror movie, we watch that one first at lunchtime, so we have time to watch like Family Guy for a couple of hours afterwards.
See, if I'm going to watch a horror film, I'll watch a horror film and then I'll watch something like Interview with a Vampire or one of the Underworld films afterwards. Yeah. Because vampires calm me down. Weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I know where I stand with vampires.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The film is based on the shocking crimes of post-war America in nationwide news cycles.
Tobe Hooper, the director, witnessed Elmer Wayne Henley's arrest when he was younger. Henley was a serial killer who participated in the abduction, murder and rape of at least 28 teenage boys.
The other serial killer who inspired Hooper was Ed Gein. Gein shocked the nation in the 1950s. He was known as the Plainfield Ghoul. Ed Gein wore women's clothes, mutilated corpses, and displaced ties with the version of the Leatherface character.
I'm not entirely sure why him wearing women's clothes is put up there next to mutilated corpses, but we'll leave that one back.
Yeah, it wasn't the done thing at the time, but he wasn't technically a serial killer to the level of like the others, to the level of Henley, but what he did to the dead was. Yeah.
Gein exhumed corpses from local graveyards and kept tapes from their bones and skin. He confessed to killing at least 2 women. Leatherface tends to wear women's clothes and mutilating bodies. He also displays a low IQ, paralleling Ed Gein. So Leatherface is the name of the guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, inspirational considering he wears skin leather.
I mean, Leatherface is better than what he gets called in American Horror Story.
Bloody Face.
Or Son of Bloody Face. What, yeah, anyway.
Gein was found guilty of murdering a hardware store owner named Bernice Warden in 1968. He was eventually institutionalised for being, really mentally unwell. Sheriffs found Warden's decapitated body in a shed, and while searching at Gein's house, they also found all sorts of horrifying objects made of skin, including masks. Isn't it like he had a belt made of human nipples? He had lamps made out of skin.
He had bowls that made out of the top of skulls.
Yeah.
As if all of that wasn't disturbing enough, Gein was also obsessed with his deceased mother. After she died, he kept her room in pristine condition, even as the rest of the house decayed. He apparently hoped to literally crawl into her skin.
I mean, let's not go down that rabbit hole. Let's not. If you're feeling deja vu at these details, you may not be surprised to learn that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre killer is not the only fictional character inspired by Gein. Aspects of his case were also woven into the backstories of Norman Bates from Psycho, the whole relationship with his mother, Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs, and even a character on American Horror Story. He's also referred to by Patrick Bateman in American Psycho.
So yeah, he's creepy.
Yes, very, very creepy.
So, the next movie is one that I haven't actually seen either.
Yeah.
But you have said that you want to see it.
I want to see it because I've heard from a number of different podcasts that I listen to around myth and legend and urban legend. I'm very familiar with the story.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think it was out in 2018.
I thought it was out very recently, actually.
But this is Winchester, as in House of, not as in Supernatural.
COVID, we had that 2 year. That was basically our blip, wasn't it?
2 years that just kind of happened, but also feel like it didn't at the same time.
But yeah, it's Winchester.
Yes, the house. In 1924, Harry Houdini, as in the Harry Houdini, visited a rambling architectural oddity in the heart of California's Silicon Valley. Though a magician by trade, Houdini was devoted to debunking what he considered a Scrooge of fake spiritualists and mediums.
The massive estate, partially demolished by the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906, that's what happens when you build your city on a fault line, had a reputation for being haunted, and not even Houdini himself could shake the sense that something inside those walls was wrong. Picking up on some popular nicknames of the day, Houdini dubbed the building Winchester Mystery House after the late Sarah Winchester, the secretive woman who built and lived in it. A Bay Area brand was born.
Now the horror movie Winchester starred Dame Helen Mirren and in the titular role. Believe it or not, this ghost-packed film could be the closest mainstream audiences come to understanding that Winchester was far from just a crazy lady who built a crazy house.
Sarah was described as being a reclusive heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, who is haunted by the angry spirits of those killed by her family's famed firearms at the centre of the ghost story.
Having lost her first baby and her husband, the widowed Winchester heiress left everything she knew of East Coast society behind in order to strike out on her own in San Jose, California, then a very rural area.
Under the influence of what many considered madness and most now would understand as all-consuming grief, Sarah Winchester built a reclusive life for herself that centred almost entirely on her great project, building a Queen Anne revival house where, during the 38 years she lived there, construction and renovation never stopped. Before his death, Sarah and her husband had worked together building their large home in New Haven. Day in and day out on a large plot of land in San Jose, she built and built.
The Winchester Mystery House started with just 8 rooms, but by 1906 it was 7 stories high with an estimated 90 rooms and includes some fascinating features.
There's stairways that go straight into a ceiling, a doorway opens to a 2-storey drop, there's a design preoccupation with the number 13, closets with 13 hanger pegs, halls with 13 panels.
Possible explanations vary from an attempt to confuse haunting spirits to design miscues resulting from constant construction.
The infamous 1906 San Francisco earthquake, rather than the film's rampaging spirits, did severely damage Winchester's house, trapping her in a room, and they had to free her with a crowbar.
The terrified Winchester tore down the top 3 damaged floors and spent more time in her nearby houseboat, but continued building on the house. In 1922, she died of heart failure in her bedroom at the Winchester house, aged 82. And despite what the film says and all the different spirits, she is the only known person to have died at the property.
Yeah. I mean, the legend has it is that she was told by a medium that in order to lift the curse that cost her husband, etc., and to appease the spirits of those who were killed by the Winchester rifle, she had to keep building constantly. She couldn't stop, and it's an interesting story, and I can fully believe a medium saying that. Whether or not it was true, we will never know. But by all accounts, she was actually a very intelligent woman. She wasn't just crazy, but grief does strange things to you.
It does, definitely. It makes you kind of... Sometimes you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird. It comes in waves. But shall we go from Winchester just to the Mexican border now?
Yes, please. This is our last story in this list. This is our last movie because we had to think of a number, and I said to you, how many should I do, Carrie? Because there's bajillions, and 10 we thought would be rounded. Yeah. So this one is actually, I personally think, is the creepiest. Not just as a movie, but the fact that the movie is pretty true to what happened.
Yeah.
So 2007's Borderland.
This film is one I haven't seen, but it's one I've heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Borderland is a 2007 American-Mexican horror film written and directed by Zev Berman, and is the only film on this list to have a 100% freshness rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is no easy feat.
It is loosely based on the true story of Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo.
Close. Jesus.
Oh, so close. An infamous cult leader, drug dealer and serial killer. Adolfo preyed upon Mexicans, sometimes even within his own cult, whether it was keeping them hooked on drugs to line his and his associates' pockets, or murdering them to feed his nganga, an iron cauldron used in the
Palo Mayombe
practice for divination, with blood sacrifices. He killed for nearly 3 years, amazing a confirmed body count of 23 people, though the actual number is estimated being far beyond that. And it wasn't until he murdered a 21-year-old American college student named Mark Kilroy that he was arrested.
Which kind of annoyed me because, like, he was murdering all these people, but it wasn't until he murdered an American that it got stopped.
Yeah.
But that's a political thing, and we're not going to get into it. They kidnapped and murdered the University of Texas Jr. in the spring of 1989, killing him with a machete blow to his head, and then had his brain removed and boiled in a pot. His killers then inserted a wire through his spinal column, amputated his legs at the knees, and buried him at the ranch along with 14 other people who had been killed there before him, and it wasn't until this murder that the full force of the law came down upon him and his followers.
The film itself follows 3 Texas friends on a summer break before heading. As part of the trip, the trio heads down to the Mexican border town, only to run afoul of a Mexican cult tied to a dangerous drug cartel. The film adapts the true story of a similar American spring breaker kidnapped and murdered by serial killer and the drug runner Adolfo Constanzo and his fanatic cult members, as we said previously. As in the movie, Adolfo Constanzo and his cult followed a religion called
Palo Mayombe,
a denomination of the Afro-Cuban religion Palo.
Yeah.
So the picture for this movie is someone tied to a bed with their head kind of... I don't think the head is cut off, but they've taken a deer head and put it on the person's head.
Oh.
As like a human sacrifice.
That's...
Yeah. And they were called, like... I can't remember the name. It was like Adolfo Satanists or something.
Okay.
That was what he called his cult.
Okay.
Because he wouldn't name a cult after Satan and himself.
You know what?
But that one's really creepy.
This is how, if you look at the actual, like, the read or the ideas behind the mission statement, if you will, for Satanism, it's very much not the rep they get in Hollywood. It's pretty much the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, hey ho, we need a villain. Who better than Satan?
Yep. So there are 10 movies that we thought we'd talk about that are based on true stories. Like I said, there are so many more. If you have a movie that you've seen that you know is based on a true story that we didn't talk about, let us know. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. And if there's any that you think that we should watch, put on our tick list,
yes,
then please let us know, because I'm trying to expand my movie knowledge.
Yeah.
There was a time in my
life...
life...
You did go through a stage of watching a load of... Because you watched all the Conjurings, all the Insidious movies.
Yeah, I did go... I did go through a phase of it. I kind of go through phases of it, but there was a large chunk of my life where I was only able to watch what I was told to watch. And if I tried to watch anything outside of that, then I was shamed into liking what I liked. So I'm working on that now. I'm getting out of that, and I'm trying to expand my movie knowledge. So please let me know, and I will give it a go. If it's a supernatural one or a psychological one, all the better. And I do actually want to write a psychological horror with a supernatural element, because I think that's the best. It's the kind of ones that you can't escape from because it's all going on in your head.
Yeah, we're kind of writing a true crime, psychologically type book thing at the moment, which we need to get back to.
Yeah, although it does scare me, the parts that I write of it does scare me, like how easy it is to write it.
Yeah.
But it's good.
It's worrying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our list of movies. So, as always, we're ending...
Think away at it and come up with jingles.
Yeah. So, this week's ridiculous death is less of a ridiculous way in which they died, more of what happened after. Because the way in which this person died is actually quite sad.
Okay. Trigger warning, discussions of suicide.
I would say you gave a trigger warning for something that's now a complete spoiler.
Well, but we have to say it.
There was this guy, we don't know his name, but he tried to hang himself from a 3rd floor balcony. He was unsuccessful though, and the rope broke and he fell. Now, when he fell, however, he impaled himself on the fence spikes below. A lady walking her dog hours later thought he was a really cool and gruesome Halloween decoration, so walked over to take a closer look. And it was at this point she noticed that the poor guy was leaking. Security camera footage from across the street showed that he was alive for a while before he bled out.
So my first thought then... I mean...
Which is quite ridiculous, really.
Yeah. He succeeded in his plan.
He did die.
In a roundabout way.
Yep. That poor woman must be scarred, though.
Yeah, to see that and then to think, oh my god.
Imagine walking over and being like, oh, that's a really cool decoration. Let's go have a... Holy shit me.
Or holy shit him, because that's what you do. Sorry. Couldn't resist. Don't blink at me like that, woman.
You literally could have resisted, though. You did not need to talk about it.
Sorry. But, yeah, no, it's, yeah. Jesus. That's a thing you would never be able to unsee.
Nope. So that's our episode for this week. We only have one left in this spooky month. There's been 5. We've never put out an episode a week for 5 weeks.
It has been punishing.
Well, I guess we have, because we did it at the beginning.
We did.
We did 6 months of them every week, and then we were like, how the hell did we do this?
Yeah, but to be fair, at that point, yes, we were working full time and everything, but we weren't doing as much as we are doing now.
So we've done 5 weeks of spookiness, which I love because we love Halloween. So go back and listen to our older ones. And last year and the year before, when we actually started the Dark Cup of History series. And next week is a live episode.
Yes.
We're very excited. We are going to hunt for Black Shuck.
Every time we say that now, all I've got in my head is the Darkness song, Black Shuck.
I don't. I get do 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 do.
2 very different soundtracks, right?
Very.
Yeah.
But yeah, please tune in for that one and see whether or not we find him. I don't know, because we haven't gone yet.
Should we just record the episode? If you're listening to this, we are dead. No, we won't do that. We won't do that. Hopefully, after going hunting from an omen of death, we will be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on holiday.
It's all good.
So maybe we shouldn't find him because I'm going to be on a plane.
It's good. Knowing our luck, we'll probably find like a demented badger or something and get
Demented badger. I am a Hufflepuff.
Oh yeah. We didn't find Black Shuck. What we did find was Carrie falling over, being chased by a demented badger. Here's the footage.
Yeah, but we are planning on recording it. So go to our TikTok at a cup of history, because we're going to record it and do a TikTok video. We have other videos on there at the moment. Not loads, because we had all these plans and then the Queen died. So we kind of went a little bit... We did memorial stuff for the Queen and we've gone a bit dark, kind of in respect.
Yeah.
But the video is going to be on there and I'm very excited for what we're going to see, because I have no idea.
Although the irony of it is we're going out to hunt for him, to see him, but the weather conditions we need are foggy.
Well, yes.
Because he's only seen on foggy nights.
He is.
So
we need good conditions, so we need to pick a day.
We need bad conditions for it to be good conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, with that lovely thing, we shall leave you later. What?
We shall see you later. We shall leave you now and see you later.
Thank you, I'm tired.
I'm going to go get some tea, you know. I'll get a cup of tea. Alright, thank you for listening, everybody.
We're back next week. Bye.
Bye.